Okay, folks, Sunday, November 20th, 2016. Rich Van Tassel with you, giving you our weekly Celtics report right now. Celtics up to 7 and 6. They had just played a back to back Friday and Saturday. They got handled pretty easily by the Golden State Warriors on Friday. We're hanging around at halftime, then got basically blitzed in the second half. That's something we'll talk about in a minute, not just in the Warriors, but in general. We're able to respond last night, getting a nice win. Jay Crowder and Al Horford were both back in the lineup. I was a little surprised by that. Horford hit a game-winning bucket, also had the game-winning block, played well in that game. The big thing with the Celtics for me that I'm seeing, it started towards the end of last year, certainly happened in the playoffs, and then it's bled into this year, is the runs that they allow teams to go on. Now, you can say part of it is Evan Turner not being on the team anymore when you have your bench unit in. I'm sure that's part of the reason, but Evan Turner was on the team last year when it happened. A big thing I look at is Marcus Smart when he comes in with the second unit. Still inconsistent shooting. Marcus Smart can score a lot of points in the post, get to the foul line, he can drive, but for whatever reason, he continues to fall in love with that three. If you're hitting the three, that's fine. If you're hitting the outside shots, that's fine. Keep going while you're hot. But in the meantime, if it's not hitting, he still hasn't developed it on a consistent enough basis. He was 1 for 9 last night. Now, he did have a big play, crashing the boards to set up the Horford rebound. We know Marcus Smart brings those things. But in the case when, a team is going on an extended run, it was like 20-4, Golden State was going on a run. Now, granted, that was against the Celtics starters, so we can't put it all on Marcus Smart, but it happens at times. I mean, Detroit was going on runs at points last night. So it's one of those things. I'd like to see him get to the post, get to the line, get some easy points that way, just slow things down when they're not hitting their shots. And it's not all on Marcus Smart. A lot of times when they go into these ruts, none of the guys are hitting shots. They blitz Isaiah Thomas, make it very difficult for him. Now, Al Horford being back, that'll help because you have another guy to go to. Frankly, it's been minimal time because of the concussion situation that Al Horford has had. But I've liked what I've seen from Al Horford. I'd always viewed Horford as a guy who likes to knock down, the mid-range jump shots off the pick and roll. He'll hit the threes at times, but never really does the nitty-gritty in the paint. And when it's needed, he's done the nitty-gritty. And I'm glad that that's something that's developed. It could have been just the system they had in Atlanta, but it's certainly a very positive thing, in my opinion, that he's doing that, because that's one of the biggest question marks I had with Al Horford. Defensively, he competes. He's a big body. He's got to do better on the glass all the way around. The team has to do better on the glass. That's still an issue, and frankly, it's probably going to be an issue all season long. Can they correct it? It would have to happen pretty soon. We're almost 15 games in. I know that's not a lot of time. Granted, they haven't had a lot of the roster, but that's something I look at offensively. Now, defense, it does play a role, especially in today's NBA, with the amount of long-range shots, the amount of switching on 3 points when you're on defense, and just switching in general. You need to be much more cohesive on the defensive end. You need to actually basically match up defensive rebounding. It's almost like you're running defensive sets just to rebound nowadays. So certainly, with Crowder, with Horford coming back, that is something that we'll have to develop. So we'll see within the next, 5 to 10 games what can happen in that regard. But it's certainly better that Horford is in the game to allow that to happen. Avery Bradley cooling off a little bit. That backcourt is still putting together some serious points. You have Isaiah Thomas over 25. You have Avery Bradley right around 18. So that backcourt continues to impress. Again, the schedule pretty favorable coming out. We discussed it last week. They lost that New Orleans game. That's a terrible loss. They've got some pretty brutal losses, to Washington, to Denver, and to New Orleans. They were able to rebound against Dallas. They had Golden State. I wasn't expecting them to win that game, even though it was part of their schedule. You look next 5. Minnesota, at Minnesota tomorrow night, at Brooklyn Wednesday, versus San Antonio on Friday. That's a 1 o'clock game, day after Thanksgiving. And then at Miami, and then home for Detroit. Then you start to extend that the next 5. Sacramento at home, at Philadelphia, at Houston, at Orlando, at Toronto. I'm looking at, should be 4-1 first 5. At least 3-2 the second 5. You'd like to see them be able to beat a team like the Toronto Raptors at home. That's a team you're competing with in the division and just a statement game. After that, it starts to get a little more difficult. You have Oklahoma City, San Antonio, but that's still a ways off. So we'll see what happens there. But they missed an opportunity against the New Orleans Pelicans, a team they should have beat. That's not really a missed opportunity. That's just a bad loss. You try to, you can make up for that with a win against San Antonio at home, or a win against Toronto at home, or going on the road and beating a Houston team. That's what you have to do for those teams. And you also want to get a statement game because you didn't really get it against Golden State, and they really haven't had their statement game yet. Though going on the road to beat Charlotte was fairly impressive. They also handed Detroit their first road loss of the season last night. So keep an eye on that. But they got off to a slow start with the favorable schedule that we said they had coming up. Got to take advantage of that. You look at it, 4-2 at home, 3-4 on the road. Again, I want to see this team finish above 500 on the road, and with 30 or more wins at home. That puts you above 50 wins, and we'll see what happens. But these next 10 games are big time for the Celtics, because you look after that, you're already at 13 games, so the next 10 will put you at 23. That's over a quarter of the season. They're able to go a 7-3, put you at 14-9. You just say 1-1 after that, 15-10 through your first 25. 13-7, get them rolling. You got your guys back. You got Horford. You got Crowder back. Let's see what Marcus Smart starts doing. Let's see if Jaylen Brown can continue to develop his game, and then you take it from there. So these next 2 weeks, we'll see how it goes. Of course, we'll do the report next Sunday, and stay tuned for that. All right, we'll catch you next time, and have a good weekend. Thank you.